So you got this big long boat, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Unsinkable.
Oh no, it sinks. It sinks.
Okay. You've got possibly this weird mummy curse.
Oh.
Or
Intriguing.
you've got some rich billionaires,
Yep.
or you've got some
Conspirating.
insurance fraud.
I do believe in that too.
What could you be
What
talking
could
about?
I be talking about?
You know what it sounds like, Zach?
What does it sound like?
Sounds like you're talking about the Titanic. and I'm not saying that all these things happen, but I'm just saying is possible.
It's very possible.
That's right, folks. The story you know about the Titanic could or could not be completely wrong, false, fabricated, made up to shield you from the truth.
Oh, are you talking about the movie?
I was going to say Jack and Rose were really
Hey.
on the ship, though, right?
Yes,
There
and
is
we
a
all
conspiracy
know.
about the movie too. So
Yes.
She
we'll
lied.
get there.
Wait, for real?
Yeah, we'll get there.
She
Yeah.
let go.
I'm going to start it off right now. You know he could fit on that door. He
That's
didn't
not-
have to die.
That's
They
not
busted
the
that on
conspiracy I'm talking
Mythbusters.
about.
He could have done it.
They busted that.
I don't
She
believe
couldn't
it.
have even done it.
Mythbusters, conspiracies.
They did it. They actually
Busting
made
it.
the board, and they were like, "Yeah,
Same wood?
two people even you could
Oh,
fit,
wait,
like,
they said it could happen. Like he could have fit
Yeah.
both on. See, yeah, they're right.
That's what they mean by busting it. Like,
Yeah.
they busted it.
The myth
is that
was
he couldn't.
And
Yes.
they busted that myth.
Yes. Yes.
Meaning he could. I'd like
That's
to see him
right.
bust this myth, break it wide open so we all know the truth.
Hmm.
Because today, on Five's the Crowd, we're going to get to the bottom of the Titanic, the real story. Here I am with my...
Figured we needed music right
I
now.
know. I needed something, right?
I
Yeah,
like
we
it.
we can't add that in post.
The X-Files music. You know?
Nailed it. Welcome back, everybody, to Five's the Crowd. Here I am with my 5 conspirating friends. You got Chris. Dang it, I said
We're
5
4.
again, didn't I?
You talk about that angel on your shoulder though.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's only the angel, though. No devils
Uh-huh.
here. I'm a good boy.
most days.
We got Chris, we got Austin, Tony, and Zach. I'm Cameron, and we're gonna jump right into this. So tell me, friends. I'm sure you're familiar with this small ship called the Titanic.
Yes.
Yep.
The RMS Titanic.
I know of
as
it.
were. You've heard of it.
I've heard of it.
dabbled in it.
It was a very famous movie.
Very famous movie. But even before that,
Is it based on a true story?
in fact, it is.
Wasn't it James Cameron who did the movie?
He did.
He did. He's
84
loaded.
years ago.
It's been
And it was like the
Good old Ron
highest
White.
grossing movie until
Avatar.
Avatar,
Yeah,
which
another
was
James
also made by him.
Yeah.
I think
And there was
he's-
nothing in between.
Yep.
I think they estimate he has $700 million in the bank.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That seems low to me.
Yeah. And then you got Steven Spielberg, $3 billion.
He also
And
he
George Lucas,
also
$5 billion.
is one of the only people who's actually traveled to the bottom of the Marianas Trench.
James Cameron.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't
they
know
do
they
that for
found
a
the bottom
movie?
of that.
Yeah, I,
think
believe
so.
so. Like Into the Abyss or something like that.
I don't.
Yeah,
Maybe
he
it
got
was
on
a-
that
maybe it
crazy
was a
thing and dropped
docuseries.
all the way down
Yeah.
there. That's insane.
Well,
Yeah, I
he
was gonna
visited
say, I
the
thought he did
Titanic
docuseries.
wreck, too.
They
A lot.
did.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that was when he was making Titanic,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yes, so I don't know if you guys have heard this. Most people know about the Titanic, you know, and we'll jump into some facts about it. Just kind of refresh your memories. Okay, Titanic, big old ship, the biggest ship of its time.
Yes.
There have been a lot of cruise liners around, but this one was by far the biggest. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but there were actually 3 Olympic class
Sister
ships made.
Yeah.
And it was the Olympic, Titanic, and the Britannic.
Yep.
And
Oh no, never mind. I was gonna say it wasn't the Carpathia, but no, that one was smaller.
nope, there were only 3 of these, and they were the biggest ships ever at this time.
Were
okay?
they the exact same ship?
Close?
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get into
I was
that.
gonna say if you look at the Olympic and the Titanic,
Pretty similar.
they're pretty darn
Very
close.
eerie.
I know.
But so jumping into the history of the story we've been told on
That they want you to believe.
exactly on April 14th, 1912. So we're going way back.
Yes.
Hold on. Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
It was also supposed to be the most luxurious.
Oh, luxurious
Oh,
and
yeah.
let's not forget unsinkable.
Yeah. But so
But.
luxurious They had a fake stack on there to make it look cooler.
Fake stack. Just
Oh,
one.
that's right. I did
Yeah,
hear about
that's
that.
right.
3 that were actually functioning, and one
And then
was
they
fake.
threw a fake one up
because
there.
people wouldn't ride on the ship with 3 stacks. They had to have 4 stacks.
There are also though a lot of superstitions.
got 3.
How
Charles,
much you see the 3-stack
ship?
There are also, I don't know if this plays into it. This is just me guesstimating. There are a lot of superstitions around being out at sea, and who knows? That could have been one.
The fact that they faked a stack.
Yeah, 3 could be a bad number. They're like super superstitious out on sea. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But so the night of April 14th, 1912,
The morning.
it started in the night. It went from the 14th to the 15th.
Ah.
So at 11:40 p.m. on
Yes.
April 14th, this beautiful, luxurious, giant, unsinkable ship did the one thing that would cause it to sink. It hit an iceberg, a very large iceberg that tore into it, and then over the night, like through the rest of the night into the early mornings, it only took 2 hours and 40 minutes for this thing to sink
Yeah.
to the bottom of the ocean. That's fast. Like, the reason so many people died, because there were 1,500 people plus who died from it. The reason they died, or it went down so fast, is the guys who were on board. There was even an engineer. He inspected the damage, and he told everyone, he's like, we're gonna be fine. Ship's not gonna sink. It's gonna hold. The rest of its walls are gonna hold. Everything's gonna be good. And then, lo and behold, 2 hours later, it sank. Water was below freezing. It was a bad time for everyone
Well,
there.
it was a clear night
Yeah.
too.
Yep, clear night,
And
but they couldn't see
A
very
big
well.
giant.
Apparently, they were warned about 6 times that there were icebergs in the way, and they
Their messenger
ignored it,
ignored
didn't
it.
move.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and backing up on the lifeboat thing, didn't they say that they were so sure that it was unsinkable that they put half the amount of lifeboats on the ship?
Yeah, they didn't have enough
They followed
lifeboats.
code on the life. The code back then was not where it should have been about how many lifeboats they had to have.
And they
Even
were
then-
only filling them half full.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and even then, when they did put lifeboats out, they were only filling them half full. Like they could
Yeah.
easily fit a lot more people on them.
Exactly. Let me throw some numbers at you. Or did you? What were you
No,
gonna
go
say?
for it.
I was gonna just throw some numbers at you real quick. This bad boy was 882 feet long.
Yep.
Beastly, right? 825 tons
Jeez.
is the amount of coal that was used per day.
Wow.
800 and what?
25 tons.
I was gonna say
of
825
coal?
tons for a boat is not very
No,
heavy.
825 tons is how much coal they used every day to keep the boilers running.
Dang.
They had approximately 10,000 light bulbs on the ship.
Wow.
That's fun. That's a lot of light bulbs. Dude, I was like, have you looked at some of the pictures of the rooms? There's some rooms with like fireplaces in them,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is a terrible idea for a ship. If you've ever been on a ship,
I've never been
they
on a
literally
ship.
tell you the worst thing that could happen is a fire.
But this was 1912. They didn't know.
They were cutting
Apparently,
northern corners
So,
too.
and it was
so-
it was a still ship too.
Uh-huh.
Let's give them a little bit of kind of credit.
I mean, it did sink, so I don't know how much I'm going to give them.
Well,
And how
there's
many
a lot that
passengers?
goes into that?
There was 2,500 passengers? Or how many passengers altogether?
In total, I think you're about right. It was 20.
There's 700
22,
survivors.
2,223.
2,223.
That's passengers and crew. We're on the ship.
Yeah, it's weird.
Wow.
Generally, when you cruise, you almost have 1.5 crew to every person on the ship. I think isn't that like the ratio?
Something like that. Yeah, because they literally like are at your beck and call for everything. Like the second you need something, there's someone nearby to ask.
Right.
But it could hold up to over 3,500 people on the ship.
I don't know why, but in my head, Titanic has always been this gigantic ship,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at it in comparison to today's cruise liners, and it's like
I don't think it compares.
2/3.
Yeah.
It, I mean,
insane.
it compares, but
what's the one it's closest to?
I mean, these pictures aren't telling me much, but I know that the top
just
one's
pictures.
a Disney ship. But I
Go,
mean,
pull up, see if you can compare it to the current largest, which is like the Oasis of the Seas from
Yeah.
Royal Caribbean. Because those ships are massive. I was on a cruise We docked in.
I think that one at the top is that
Is
top
that
one
one?
is the Oasis of the Seas.
My gosh.
Yeah. So the Titanic, I mean, even to today's standards, is still fairly large.
Still a large
is.
ship.
Okay,
But,
yeah.
and again, back then, though, it was the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like these were
Yeah.
the biggest ships on the ocean by quite a bit. Like I'd say at least over 100 feet.
It was a big accomplishment for the time for sure.
Exactly.
Millions
it
of
cost,
dollars.
Yep, $7.5 million to build this thing.
That's about as much as a
the
house in
early-
Salt Lake.
Seriously. In the early 1900s.
I was gonna say 1900s. That's
This isn't like
Yeah.
1909.
Comparison, you're about $1 billion today with inflation.
Yep.
Wow.
So
Jeez.
it's insane.
But yeah, so this thing was a beast. It was insane. Like this was supposed to be one of the most momentous moments in history, and it was a
Crock a
horrific
bottle,
tragedy. So we think, or we've been told.
it is. I mean, either way you look at it, it's a horrific tragedy.
It is.
Yes.
Yes.
These people really did
But-
die.
Yeah, people died.
Yeah, we're not denying the fact that
all
these
died.
people died. Or
They went out into the ocean and they
sank.
died.
But the question is, was it an accident?
No.
Now, did they die? Is that a conspiracy?
No,
Maybe
they did.
just
They died.
transported
They
to
did.
it. Okay. I'm just
They
feeding
really
into the
did.
conspiracy. I don't know.
You gotta.
It's like, no, that to feed in the conspiracy, you need to be like, wait, you actually believe in the Titanic? That it existed?
What's this Titanic?
I mean, you have to think accident. The fact that it hits an iceberg in the middle of nowhere on a clear night, it's one heck of an
Their
accident.
binoculars were locked in a locker that they couldn't get a hold
Ah,
of.
that's a conspiracy right there. Yeah.
That's actually fact.
Was it? Has it been proved? Oh,
Yeah.
How'd you
I was
check
reading
it?
up on it.
They went down there and found and I don't know if they did or not, but there is recording. There's a lot of documentation on what happened.
How
that
could they
night.
not get the binoculars?
Badonkalunks? Binoculars.
The badonkadonk.
Those are used for a special purpose.
So, I think it was just laziness, man. I really
It was the guy
I think it
who
was
had the key for him went to
negligence.
bed.
I just don't even know why you need a key
I
for a
honestly-
locker for binoculars.
I mean, if we're going with the what's told to be true story, it sounds really like a bit of pride. They honestly thought they were puffed up and thinking that they built an unsinkable ship. Nothing could ever go wrong. We'll be fine. Whatever.
Did they think this would like tear through icebergs and just?
They just thought the way it was built, it was a modern marvel. The way it was built had not really been done before, and it had multiple compartments that were sealed off from
16.
each other,
Yep.
and they would keep air in them and stay
Right.
buoyant. So even if they wrecked, it could fill. What do you know what the number was? Like it could fill a certain amount, and it
Four
was
of them.
still
It could fill 4 of them.
yeah, and it would
and
still
still
float.
float.
Okay.
Of the portholes, right? And then they close the portholes where the water would come in, and it's supposed to be unsinkable in the fact that they could fill 4 of them completely up, seal them off, and it'd
Yeah.
still float. I mean, it'd
And you got to
limp,
think
but-
that's almost like they had time to close them before even 4 would fill up.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big area of water, though.
Mm-hmm.
What was it, like 50? It displaced 57 tons of water when it was moving through the ocean. Something like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it was a beast.
Yeah.
But if we jump into some of the conspiracies, okay, that's the story we know. Hit
False.
the iceberg, broke in half, sank, 2.5 hours, all that stuff.
Here's one thing I have heard about it is I heard that if they actually went straight ahead into the iceberg, they would never sink.
I heard that one too.
It
I
would
mean,
have
how
just.
do you even test that?
That's a theory.
That's
Yeah.
one of the scientific theories that it just would have
Like the way
crushed the
the-
bow.
Yeah, the way the metal was.
Oh,
if
like
they
it
would
could've,
have, like how they
either
saw the
split it
iceberg
or-
and tried to correct and started to turn, and then it grazed the side. If they would have just stayed on path and just hit the
Well-
iceberg,
There's an interesting fact that I discovered today, and we'll get into it in just a little bit.
Fact check.
But it has to do with the captain himself. So hang on, I'll tell you a little bit more.
oh, I'm buckled in.
But we're going to start out with one of the first conspiracy theories of the day. And that was the day after the Titanic sank, the New York Times put out an article citing that they believed that the issue was, or the thing that caused the Titanic to sink, was that it was transporting a mummy.
Ooh, I was gonna bring this one
really?
up.
Yup.
Yeah.
What, was it really though?
Not just a mummy,
Well,
a cursed
what's-
mummy.
Yes.
A cursed mummy. Exactly. I mean, are there not cursed mummies?
I mean, we've
Yeah.
seen two,
I thought- I
two
feel like they're
movies
all
on.
cursed.
Well, we saw a series of it with Brendan Fraser,
We don't talk about the third one.
Yeah, that exists.
and then we talk. Then the Tom Cruise one.
Oh yeah, that was
one's
good. That's a
good,
good
yeah.
one. I want to
See?
watch
I
that
like
one
that
again.
Cursed mummies, they're no joke, man.
Yeah. So this mummy, it was the mummy of Amun Ra.
Yeah.
Was her name. And there's conflicting stories. Now there's stories that say the mummy was in fact on the Titanic. It was being taken to Chicago for study and I think to be in a museum.
And it was actually being held in the captain's office, captain's quarters.
And
Or
then,
that it was hidden under a truck because it wasn't supposed to be on the
See,
ship.
that's the one I
Yeah.
heard.
see,
So-
a lot of
That the
conflicting
guy
stories.
wasn't it like a journalist bought it, and
They told him no.
he knew with the curse that, or he was worried they wouldn't let him take it on, so he hid it under the body of his truck.
Uh-huh.
Sneaky.
I just don't know how you get past security.
I mean,
It's
what is
1912.
that?
It's a duffel bag.
Definitely a lot easier.
Plus, if he was on first class up top, they're not
Probably
going
not
to
gonna
check
get
much.
questioned.
And if this guy had a truck, he was probably first class. Because
Yeah.
how many classes were there again?
What's this contraption?
3 or 4?
I don't know. To be honest, I wasn't sure.
Is
I
it the
didn't look
same
into
one? Is it the same one Leo and Rose were in?
that.
It
No,
might-
they
there
were in
might have
different
been three.
classes.
Oh.
Jack,
They were in
was
that
his
truck,
name.
though.
Jack was in third
The
class.
mummy was under there.
Yeah, he was a ruffian. He was a hooligan. They never should have been together, but somehow love found a way.
The heart will
Anyways.
go on.
But yeah, so now we have this mummy's curse
Wasn't
that
there-
possibly doomed it.
Wasn't there another idea that not the mummy itself was on there, but artifacts?
But artifacts, and it was the researcher, the founder, wasn't it? Like had the artifacts and took
Yeah.
them on the ship and was taking them to America.
Yeah,
And they were punishing him for desecrating her grave or what?
something
I
like
mean,
that. Yeah,
like all great curses, you curse the people who find your body and disturb it.
yeah.
Oh.
See, the one I saw that the mummy went down with the ship, and so now the only thing displayed is the lid of the encasing.
Because it was wooden,
Yeah.
so it floated.
And even now that is still cursed.
She could have fit on the door too.
Sounds like Hugabaloo to me.
This is definitely the one that holds the least weight, to be honest. Like, I mean, who doesn't love a good mummy's curse story?
See, it says the lid is at the British Museum.
I thought the mummy was displayed somewhere now.
It seems like they might have debunked that the mummy's body wasn't actually on the ship,
Artifacts or anything.
but
like
artifacts
that.
were.
She got rehydrated.
Came back to life. All she needed was a little drink of water.
Electrolytes in the water.
Lots of
A little
salt.
bit of salt.
A little bit of 28-degree water. Just slowly
Nice.
rehydrating.
Now that's some high quality
It's like leaving,
H2O.
it's like leaving beef jerky in your mouth. Eventually it rehydrates.
Does it
I've never left it in long enough.
turn into beef moisty?
Oh, that's your problem.
No, it turns into those tender
Oh,
Jack
little-
Lane's
yep,
ones.
little- yeah,
They
yeah.
just put them in some guy's mouth, and he puts them in the bag when he's done.
Well, now that we know that the mummy one probably not true, I'm gonna give that a false.
5 thumbs down.
5 thumbs down.
5 thumbs down.
The next one, the next conspiracy theory is about J.P. Morgan.
There's two
and,
with him actually.
and Hershey, Mr. Hershey. I forgot his name.
Mr. Hershey.
Mr. Hershey's name.
I think we all need to
was
talk in
Milton
that.
Hershey.
Milton Hershey.
So J.P. Morgan, for those of you who don't know, was a super rich dude.
Illuminati.
Back in the early 1900s. Dude, this guy was so rich at the time, so powerful, had so many companies and so many friends in high places that this is going to be a harder one to disprove because he could literally get anything done.
Wasn't the company White Star Liners? Isn't that what it was? Or
White Star Liner,
Yeah,
White
was the
Star
Titan-
was
yes,
the
the Titanic.
was the company that
Yeah.
owned the Olympia, the Titanic, and the Britannia.
Yeah.
Britannic, and he helped fund it. Like he
Yeah.
had a big chunk of his money in it.
Uh-huh.
And but he was into all kinds of stuff, right? Well, at this time there was a lot of drama going on with the Federal Reserve. And he was all about the Federal Reserve and getting it set up and going and stuff. But then all these other rich people, some of his rich friends, were not on board with it.
3 of them to be exact.
Exactly.
John-
3 of them.
John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidore Strauss.
Yep. Those 3 men were all against the Federal Reserve, and they were using their money against JP
Very
Morgan.
wealthy men.
All this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, all those dudes and JP Morgan, of course, all have suites booked on the Titanic. They want to be on the first, ride across the ocean. Well, last minute, JP Morgan cancels his ticket with no explanation. He's just like, nope, I'm not going. Just cancels it. He's done. And then mysteriously, what happens? The ship goes down. All 3 men die. All the men who opposed JP Morgan.
The only weird thing that they've actually displaced on this theory is there was 2 of whom were actually okay with the Federal Reserves.
True.
So
So he kills 1,500 people for one guy.
Also, I'm going to
Went
say
for
what he
3.
thought was 3, but
Yeah.
2 of them were actually okay with the Federal Reserve.
And you want to sweeten the deal a little bit? His friend, Milton
you
Hershey,
say
pun
sweet?
intended. I did. He also canceled his ticket last minute, claiming he was sick. He was a friend of JP Morgan and also a rival businessman of these 3 dudes.
I hate to be the wah-wah on this.
Let's
though.
hear it. Let's want.
Bullets are so much cheaper than a $7.5 million ship that you have to say, hey, you're invited to go on this. But they could have been like, oh,
Yeah,
also-
really. But that's petty.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm so rich, I'm gonna let you crash my $1 million boat.
That boat took 3 years to build.
$7.5 million.
Think of how sweet it was knowing it was coming, though.
But how would he know?
Every single day you're walking the courtyard, you're like, yeah,
Dude's
this is their
sweating.
grave.
Dude's sweating that they're going to cancel the reservation. I mean, that had everything in that scheme had to play out. So I am being a wah-wah. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying,
But here's the
man.
thing, he had the money.
yeah. So
He
did
could have
they.
paid everyone along the way.
Could you imagine every single conversation you ever had with them ever again? You're just like,
You're going to murder me in some fantastical way.
I am.
Here I am thinking you're going to just feed me poison. You're going to drop a building on me or something.
And then the
You would
iceberg
never
had
know.
to be right there.
He made the iceberg.
He bought an ice cube
A
machine.
really big ice machine.
He paid to have dolphins trained to slowly push the iceberg into the
direction.
spot.
The iceberg also flipped, so it was black ice, so it had flipped.
Convenient. Of
So
it to
they
just
flipped
flip.
the iceberg as well.
I'm just saying.
It was flipped. I
What
didn't hear
else
that.
would flip the iceberg? Why would it just
Wait, hold up.
spontaneously flip?
Hold up.
So
The iceberg flipped.
it
I don't know.
starts
That's what he's saying.
to melt or starts friction as it's going through the water. It flipped to where the ice that was under the water was clear and turned back around, so you didn't see the white. It was a calm day, so there was no waves.
Wait, are you being
hitting.
serious?
Yes.
Oh.
I did a lot of
Well,
research.
I'm being serious.
Wow.
JP
I
Morgan.
researched it.
He's a murderer.
I mean, that's more fun for
I've
sure.
never heard-
I get it.
I've never heard the iceberg flipping thing.
Yeah, I've
That's
never heard
So
that
interesting.
either,
they
actually.
I think they call it a black ice. I thought, well, it might have been something different, but yeah, the iceberg can flip to where
Why has it got to be black ice? Why can't it be white ice?
because it's dark and they couldn't see the ice.
I'm sorry.
Let's go with clear eyes.
Clear eyes.
A dangerous road.
You have dry
Don't
eyes?
discriminate on ice, okay?
Oh my
I just got
gosh.
blacklisted. Why can't it be whitelisted?
Oh, jeez. Guys, all ice matters.
I'm just
okay?
saying. I'm saying it's really convenient of that iceberg to just flip at the right
Well,
moment.
it's a known thing that they do. So it flipped. It was clear.
Someone tracked
They
down
didn't
this
have
iceberg.
binoculars.
Question it.
I'm sure it's still around somewhere.
Is this a real thing? I felt like
Yes. Look it up right now. Fact check McFackerson.
You watch your mouth.
if you look at pictures of icebergs, there's like a tip above the
Yeah.
water, and then like 90% of it's underneath water.
You're right. Correct. 10% of it.
So
is
like, how
showing.
could something with so much weight
So-
on the underside flip?
Well, because it could be jagged in one area to where one area melts away to where it flips up this way. It's not like a complete 360 flip.
Okay. 180.
Just dips enough.
Doing front flips.
Yeah, it's not. That would be cool to watch.
That would be. I would pay money.
Damn
to
you,
see that.
JP Morgan.
I mean, if he trained those dolphins, they could have pushed it. All right. Well, according to the Economic Times, the iceberg that sank the Titanic was 100,000 years old.
See?
Wow.
Jeez.
100,000 years old.
He's an old guy. And
It's all those flips.
seriously,
It's all kept
it
him
is
youthful.
estimated to be 400 feet in length,
Yeah.
100 feet above the ocean surface, giving it a 1.5 million tons in estimated tons, tonnes, TONNES
It's British.
inside.
British tons.
They always add
Why
extra
aren't they doing
letters.
cubits or something? Jeez.
British tons.
The iceberg, however, had been melting into the water for months prior to the incident, according to Big, B-I-G-G. It was around 1,700 feet long and 75 million tons in weight.
So it was sticking 100 feet out of the water.
And how did they
No,
couldn't
it was
see
How
that-
do you not see that?
No, it was
Dark
originally.
Knight.
It
Originally.
was sticking 100 feet out of the water.
They estimated about 50 foot
Gotcha.
at the time of impact.
It's a dark night. Chris said it was black ice. You can't see it.
Clear ice.
They didn't have their
Sorry.
binoculars.
Blended in with its surroundings. it picked its color that day.
It did.
JP probably went out
And
there and
Titanic flight
flipped
is
it on
black ice that day.
purpose.
Probably spray painted it black.
That makes me so curious.
He brought planes in and just dropped black paint on it all day.
More tar, sir. We need more tar.
And then he would hide behind the navigator and just whisper like directions, just to subliminally get him to aim it straight at the iceberg.
So here's a question. Maybe this isn't answered, but how much distance did the ship actually need in order to start turning?
It was a big ship.
Like from if they saw an iceberg, because you could like when you're not surrounded by light pollution and stuff, you can like if it's dead of night, you're not going to see anything, especially out in the ocean.
Yeah.
But unless there's like a full moon, but even then, like I don't know, man. I just don't know how far away you could see
Well,
versus how like quickly you would need to turn.
yeah.
Oh, also, it was actually a moonless night.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
That's right. I was going to say, I thought there was something in there about the moon.
That sounds like something JP Morgan may have planned.
He hit the moon.
He blotted out the moon.
He stole Gru's shrink ray and stole the moon.
Well, you guys took it to the next level. I just thought maybe he planned it for the specific week release. I was like, that sounds easier to me.
He just knew it was going to be a
I
new
just-
moon, and
Yeah.
I just think this theory digs and digs and digs trying to explain something when there's a lot of logical stuff that makes it go wah wah.
All right. So what about this one then?
Okay.
This is probably the most famous conspiracy theory about the Titanic, that it actually is not the Titanic.
Dun dun dun.
The Olympic.
That it
the
was
Olympus,
actually
right?
the Olympus.
Yeah.
So
The
this-
Olympic.
Or Olympic.
Olympic.
Yeah,
Olympic.
sorry.
Olympic.
This is what they call the insurance fraud, right?
Yes.
This is the
So,
biggest,
The
by
Ol-
far biggest conspiracy about the Titanic.
The Olympic had constantly been going back from New York to Ireland.
Well, so the Olympic was made a year before.
Yes.
So it was made in 1911. It started voyaging. On its fifth commercial voyage, so it only done it 5 times, it collided with the HMS Hawk,
That's right.
a military ship, near the Isle of Wight.
A lot of crashing.
WIGHT.
Now, here's
In southern England. What, like BLAKE or something?
Go.
Nobody pay attention to it. Continue, Austin.
Simmer.
I can't imagine.
BLAQUE.
I can't imagine
Baku.
back in 1911 there were many
Edit that.
ships on the ocean.
There weren't a ton, but they did. There were actually. I watched a video today that showed all the different liners. There were probably like 20, at least like 20 ships. But they would use the same paths essentially.
Well, and it's funny too because the Titanic almost collided with a ship as it left the harbor of England.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Well,
if it would have collided with that ship, it actually would have stopped it.
Would it
and they would have-
displaced so much water to where it broke that ship off of the ropes that were holding it to the dock.
Well, exactly. So both ships were pretty damaged, but they came to the conclusion that the reason they hit each other is because as they were passing, the Titanic was so much bigger that it created suction, and it basically pulled the other ship into itself. So it was passing by and it just it hit it in the near the aft part of the ship. Well, they went to court to see if they could get restitution for it, and the courts decided that it was the Olympics' fault, and so the company would have to pay for their own repairs.
Yeah.
You said the Titanic at first. You
Yeah,
mentioned
Sorry,
the
the
Olympic.
Olympic. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
They said it was the Olympics' fault, and so they had to pay for their own repairs, which came to about $250,000, which for them,
Which they had to take it to Ireland to do the repair.
well, that's where it was
dock
built.
was, yeah.
That's where it was built originally.
Oh,
was
okay.
Belfast.
All right. Okay.
So all of them were. They were all built in Belfast. But $250,000 is how much they estimated they would make in the first 2 years of its service.
Oh,
Yeah.
got
So-
it.
So already, after only 5 voyages, they're deep in it.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not going to come out.
Like bankrupt.
Yeah,
again-
they're basically sinking,
Uh-huh.
in this ship.
Oh, I see what you did
So-
there.
And again, J.P. Morgan had his money in there. I'm just saying.
He did.
But it was only insured for $5 million.
Yeah, it
versus
wasn't
the cost of
insured for as much.
$7.5 million. So he would have been losing more to sink the ship than he would have just to repair the ship.
How do you know?
I mean, what do you?
Because it's $2.5 million. I can do basic math in this little brain of mine.
Yeah.
Basic stuff.
But what happens?
250,000.
What happens if it collides
Versus
somewhere else?
250,000.
What if it was just a money pit and it was easier just to sink it?
It's the damn mummy.
What if? What if it was all of these?
What if?
What if there was a mummy? J.P. Morgan wanted to kill his friends and make insurance money,
Ooh.
It seems like the perfect crime to me, sir.
right?
Ooh.
Because then you go, well, no, this couldn't be all of them, but it was. That's how.
And
they,
here we are.
that's how they make you sound
And then
crazy.
he put the mummy on the ship. He put the mummy on the ship to
He hid it in the truck.
unsniff the trail.
It was him.
He
And
wanted
then
him
the
to sniff a wrong
dolphins
trail.
overturned the iceberg.
It was the dolphin.
Guys, the dolphins.
We have figured it out.
We got it.
We did it.
But
And
actually,
Poseidon came up from the deep. Because he was paid off by J.P. Morgan.
100%. They need money too. But here's the thing I was going to talk about earlier. It has to do with the captain. The captain of the Olympic, when they crashed into the HMS Hawk,
Yeah.
was found not at fault. And so you know what they did? They promoted him and let him drive the frickin' Titanic.
Really?
He was the captain who crashed the Titanic and ended up dying in the crash.
Edward
the
J.
Olympic.
Smith.
Yep.
Edward J.
No,
Smith
both.
was his name.
He crashed the Olympic, got promoted to run the Titanic on their first voyage, and the Titanic sank.
So JP Morgan was pissed at him too, huh?
Sink it.
Well, it was his last. The ship of the Titanic was Edward J. Smith.
It was his,
And
last voyage before
it was his last
retirement.
voyage before retirement.
I-
J.P.
Irony.
Morgan, he pulled strings to get this guy promoted because he knew he would crash the
Exactly.
Titanic.
He
No
didn't
one
even
would
need to pull
question it.
strings. It's his own ship.
No one would question it
You're
because
promoted.
he'd already done it once.
Well, the other thing is too is he had resided into his cabin right before all this had happened. So the first mate, and I forgot what his name was the one in charge who made the call to divert.
That's
away.
not what happened in the movie. He sits there very bravely in his glass box.
We couldn't take
No,
it.
He goes down with the ship.
that's when he goes
what I
down
mean.
with the ship. He actually, before they hit the iceberg, he
Oh.
actually went to his
He
room.
went to his cap.
Yes.
Gotcha.
and left the first mate in charge.
Lawyer.
I mean, if JP Morgan thought of all this, he's a pretty genius guy.
I mean, he was like one of the wealthiest people in the world, so he's not stupid.
The other reason too that the first mate was ignoring the calls for the icebergs, they were actually on a very tight schedule because they've already fallen behind because of the two docks, because they docked a couple other places and they'd fallen behind
to
schedule.
France. They picked up people in France.
Yeah.
Oh, and that just
captain-
reminded me to debunk what you were saying is yes, the Olympic was only insured for $5 million.
Yes.
The Titanic was insured for a lot more.
You're right.
So by rebranding the ships and claiming that the Titanic,
You
the Olympic
haven't
was the
haven't
Titanic-
gone into this. You
well,
haven't.
yeah, that's true. So the idea behind it all is that because the Olympic was broken essentially, and they had to fix
A
it,
money pit.
they decided instead that they would repaint both ships so that the Titanic was actually repainted as the Olympic. The Olympic that had just been repaired was now repainted as the Titanic. it would then go down. They would make a lot of insurance money because
That's why they put on the fourth fake one.
exactly
Fake little whatever you call it.
Well, that was
Stack.
fake on the
Smoke
Olympic
stack.
too.
both of them.
Both of them were.
Did they
fake.
both have 4?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But that way,
I thought the
when it
Olympic only had
sank, they
3.
would collect the insurance money for the
pretty
Titanic,
identical.
which would more than get them out of debt with the Olympic.
So just to make sure I'm on the same page here. So the ship that sank was really the Olympic, but they called it the Titanic
So they can get
so they
insurance
could
money.
get the Titanic insurance money.
And bail them out of the mistake.
And then the
that
real
was the Olympic.
Titanic is back home taking
Pretending
the
to
name
be
as
the
the
Olympic.
Olympic.
Yes.
But there was a lot of differences inside between the Titanic and the Olympic that they say
Was
they
there?
switched it. Yes, inside.
Are you sure?
So they claim.
Yes. Because this has been proven too is that
By
for
who?
I'm not saying. But for publicity, they would take pictures of the Olympic and say the Titanic on its maiden voyage. And they take pictures of the Olympic because the Titanic was either out or the Olympic was already out in the water, and they take pictures of
Or
it.
because the Titanic was actually the Olympic.
Maybe not.
And the Olympic was actually the Titanic.
But also, just to not make JP Morgan seem like or these people seem like a huge monster, they actually did have a plan for another ship to be near.
You're right. Yeah.
So when the ship went down, they would be able to save the people.
Which there was a ship near.
There was, but they didn't respond to the calls.
But
Yes.
there's
Why?
things with the flares there. So they were supposed to throw up white, blue, and red flares, and they only sent out white flares. So they did. They were like, "Is this
the call?
but I don't see a blue flare."
So
Well,
the
we better
ship,
just wait it out.
That's
I mean,
what happens.
the American in me is just like red, white, and blue. America.
Yeah, great. That was beautiful. Well
That's
done,
France
guys.
colors too.
I know it's Frenchy. I know.
Meh.
Maybe that's why they didn't show up because they thought it was.
So's
French.
Britain, though. To be honest, is red, white, and
No
blue as well.
offense to the
That's
French.
true.
Yeah. Yeah. And
true.
Australian. I mean,
mean,
a lot of
yeah,
countries use red, white,
That's
blue.
true.
True. But there's only America, so.
I hope our friends all understand our sarcasm. Our sarcasm
By
is
this
real
point, they
high.
better
They better,
because
right?
You better know it, man.
They
Some
don't.
people, they'll be like, you guys are so mean. It's like, no,
I mean,
dude,
even in just
we're
this
joking.
episode,
Yeah.
they
So-
better know by now that we're kidding.
Seriously.
We're kidding.
Should have started out seeing how many puns we could make throughout the night.
So what ship was actually close? Because I know it was the Carpathia that actually picked him up,
Yeah.
but there was another ship that was closer, and I can't remember what it was.
There
Yeah,
was
it had a
one
name.
that was a Norwegian ship or something like that saw the Titanic sinking, but hurried and veered off because they were doing illegal seal hunting.
There was also
Norwegians.
the
I don't know. It might not be Norwegian, but it was something up in that.
the real Titanic, or also known as the fake Olympic, was also nearby, and
Yes.
they got the distress call and responded. But by the time they were almost there, most of the rescue had been done, and then the guy who was coordinating the rescue said it probably wasn't a good idea to put his all the people who just survived a crash on a ship that looks exactly like the one that just sank. So they denied
What they
their support.
what
They're
they
like, nah,
didn't
just
want-
keep going. We're good.
What they didn't want is they didn't want the people to get on there and be like, "Wait a minute, this looks oddly like the
This
Titanic."
is the Titanic.
Oh, see,
And figure it out. Exactly.
they
one
would
of
have
them
figured
was
out
a
the
mummy.
conspiracy.
One of the biggest things, though, I saw that kind of ruined it for me because I wanted to believe this is the fact that the carpet was all different. That there's a lot of the stairwell was different in the Titanic. So they said that they changed it all in a weekend. One weekend.
44 days.
Maybe
Not
the
to
pictures.
change it.
No, they
maybe
had
the,
44 days is how long it was dry docked.
Okay.
maybe the pictures that you saw
It's
were
how long-
actually of the.
It's how long both ships were dry docked at the same time was 44 days.
Gotcha.
Maybe the pictures that you saw were actually of the other ship. Maybe they're just
Or maybe
reversing
it's the
how-
real ship and you're wanting to make
Maybe.
it
I feel
the
like
other
this
ship.
is the cup game.
I mean,
Yeah.
Hey, all I know is, did they even have pictures back then? 1910?
Yes,
1911?
Yeah,
They
remember
actually
that?
had video back
they
then.
had video too.
I'm just kidding.
Moving pictures.
How do we know
I
they're
feel
real?
like this is all fake.
Didn't they
Here's
have
the
the black
thing, though.
powder cameras where they're
All right, listen to me. This. Follow me down this rabbit hole. Okay, you ready? Okay. Murder Among the Mormons, we discussed a man that could make some incredible forgeries.
Yes.
How do we know J.P. Morgan didn't pay somebody
To make some
to
incredible
make
forgeries.
some incredible forgeries of these original plans?
I like it.
Okay, I got one though.
Okay.
Mike, drop.
Boom! But not really.
Have you heard of the book The Wreck of the Titan?
Okay.
No.
That's crazy.
This.
Yes.
You
this
haven't
is
heard of this
insane.
I haven't. Give
There's
it to me.
2 books.
Oh, is there?
Yes.
Oh my.
So this is one in 1898. Okay. A fictional story called The Wreck of the Titan was written about a ship called Titan that hit an iceberg, and it had lack of lifeboats, and it was in the North Atlantic in April when it hit the iceberg.
The only difference was it was on a foggy day.
It was on a foggy day. Yeah. A
wanna
foggy,
know-
cloudy day.
Well, I
and
mean, out of
wanna know-
everything, that's the only piece you couldn't control.
the
is
author
the weather.
claimed to have psychic
Morgan can.
abilities.
You want to know the other creepy part about that? The author of that book was on the
J.P.
Titanic
Morgan.
when
I
it
was
sunk.
It's like J.P. Morgan's
But
brother.
like the details,
He was on the Titanic when it sank, and he actually went down with the ship. The author of that book.
Get out of here.
Dead serious.
I'm
That's
just saying.
not real.
Dead serious.
I'm just saying.
so it's
That
saying
man.
At least
made
that's
the-
what I read.
He made the perfect blueprints for J.P. Morgan.
Yep.
To get away with it.
it says that
So let me get this right. J.P. Morgan steals the idea from this book, then invites the author on to kill him too.
Well, exactly, because how is he going to come back and be like, "This is my book"? Nope, you did.
Bro, this guy is genius. I need to meet
I'm
this
telling you,
J.P. Morgan.
diabolical.
He died.
I need to meet him. I
Give
need
it
to
to
meet
us,
this
Tony.
guy.
Give it to us.
but it was just saying that the similarities. So the Titanic was 882 feet, 53,000 or displacing 53,000 long tons, and was once described as unsinkable. The Titan was 800 feet, displacing 75,000 tons, and was considered unsinkable. The Titanic carried 20 lifeboats. The Titan carried 24 lifeboats. Let's see, moving too fast at 23 knots, the Titanic struck an iceberg on the night of April 14th, 1912 in the North Atlantic, 400 miles away from Terranova. I'm saying that wrong.
Terranova?
Terranova, thank you.
There you go.
On an April night in North Atlantic, 400 miles away from Newfoundland, Terranova. Is that how you said that? Mm-hmm. The Titan hit an iceberg while traveling 25 knots. Let's see. More than half of the 2,200 passengers died on Titanic. 2,500 passengers died on the Titan. The difference was there was only a handful of survivors on Titan, where
12.
Titanic had, 12.
Yeah.
Where Titanic had, what was it, 700?
700 plus, a little over 700.
And 2 dogs.
But like just a couple of the differences was Titan was sailing from America to Europe, where Titanic was the other way
You
around.
gotta switch it up so it's more
Yeah,
believable.
gotta change some things.
So the part where it gets hit, the author knew at the time the nautical route that they were taking, and they would they knew that place was known for having icebergs and everything floating through there. So I mean,
So this was actually going into what I was saying earlier too, which leads into another theory that so they were going way too fast because they were trying to make up time.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
were supposed to dock in New York on a certain time and day, and they were behind schedule, so they ramped up the knots to try to get
for the
there faster.
welcoming, yeah.
And if they would have actually just been going the normal speed that they were actually supposed to be going, by the time they saw the iceberg, they would have had enough time to steer out of the way, miss the iceberg, and keep on going.
Fools. That too, and then
I bet you J.P. Morgan delayed them from leaving because he didn't cancel until the last minute, so they were waiting for him.
Ooh.
Delayed him just enough knowing that they'd be going faster through the iceberg field that the freaking dolphins had flipped over and hit the ship.
That J.P. Morgan covered in black.
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying.
But
J.P. Morgan sank the Titanic,
the reason J.P. Morgan missed
which was actually the Olympic.
I was gonna make that correction.
So he could get all of his money back.
Yep.
But the reason he delayed going on the Titanic is because they didn't have all of his art collection, which he was taking to the U.S.
I was right.
So that's kind of on par with that.
Yes.
You know, out of all the conspiracy theories that we've actually talked about, this is one that I could get behind.
This
I'm
is the one I
telling ya.
can't, and I'm
telling
sorry.
you.
Which one?
Everyone tries.
The JP Morgan?
That's
The
the
J.P.
problem.
Morgan and the insurance fraud. That is
Nobody-
actually one I could
Yeah.
get behind.
Nobody can put together the pieces because they're not playing with the whole puzzle. Everybody's like, it was the mummy. No, it was J.P. Morgan and his Hershey buddy. No, it was a freaking insurance fraud. What if it was everything?
I think
It was a
just
psychic author.
I just
and the
think,
psychic author.
I just think it was an unfortunate accident that took the lives of 1,500 people. But
I'm just saying.
You know,
because there's science behind it. When they were go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say
I'm gonna go on a rant for a
with
second.
that psychic author, you would think that he's getting on this Titanic, which is remotely close to the name Titan, taking the exact same course, just flipped. You'd think he'd be like, I wrote a book about this. I ain't getting on this ship.
Well, see, Zach, we all know, unlike this conspiracy theory, which is 100% true, psychics aren't real.
Oh, touche. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Chris, go on.
So, what in the building process of the three sister ships, it was the first time they were starting to use steel instead of iron. It was a technology that was coming out with steel. They had steel rivets. They had machines that would drive the steel rivets, but on the contour of the ship, they couldn't use that machine, so they had to use iron rivets. Which iron
I hope you heard that in your mic.
is a lot more.
Everybody did.
Weak sauce.
It's a lot more brittle when it gets to a
Wet.
certain temperature and cold.
Oh.
So when it gets cold, it becomes brittle to where when you have an inflection and everything, it'll shatter versus steel, which bends. So you're saying J.P. Morgan
Seems like
bought-
engineered obsolescence. I mean,
it's
if you
1912,
wanted to
man.
sink a ship in the ocean in the freaking winter where it's nice and cold,
But the technology
What
wasn't
better
there at
way?
the time, is what I'm saying. The technology wasn't there at the time to be able to do.
Okay, I've got one question for you.
crime
Then.
of opportunity.
This right here can make or break either side.
Okay.
If the ship needed work, the $250,000 worth of work,
Yeah.
where are the logs for the work being done?
I haven't seen them, but I have seen it was documented that they did work on it.
Could have been fabricated.
They took in order to get the Olympic back on track, they did have to take one of the propellers off the Titanic and put it on the Olympic because it bent. Oh, you're
I
gonna hate
missed
me
it.
for this though. So they took.
You mean they took the propeller off of the Olympic to put on the
They
Titanic?
took it off the Titanic.
The Olympic
Because the
Titanic or the Titanic Olympic?
The Titanic, and then there's the Olympic. So the Titanic, they took one of the propellers off because the shaft was bent on the Olympic. They put it on the Olympic. Is it shaft? Is
yeah, the screws.
Doesn't help.
A bent shaft is not good at all.
No, can't function.
Oh, yours isn't that way?
So tell us more about this propeller.
Sir. So immature.
Yeah. I openly
We're
admit
10.
it. So
You know you were thinking it.
they took
Absolutely.
they took the shaft off the Titanic, put it on the Olympic, and built a new one.
You mean they put it off the
The
Olympic? and put it on the
Titanic's
Titanic?
number was 201.
Or
The
401.
Olympic or 401. The Olympics was 400. All the parts matched, so they had to change out all the parts. Anyway, we'll get into that. They took the shaft off. People took pictures like, see, it says 401 on this sunken ship. Well, what about the other propellers that should say 400? If it was indeed the Olympic that had sunk, it would have still had 400 markings on the propellers.
So I mean, you just said that they took the propellers off of one and put them on the
They
other.
took one propeller off the Titanic that got bent. You're digging.
I mean, they could do
You're
it.
digging
They could
so
do
much
it.
on this. You're
It
right.
is possible they
I'm
had the
sorry.
means to do it.
I'm not trying to spoil
They
your
could have do it.
dreams.
Here's the thing: if you're gonna do it in secret, you don't write it down.
And after this is when serial numbers became a thing.
Yeah, that's what it was.
That's the
Is
thing.
like the numbers on these ships was like a VIN number on a vehicle nowadays. It's all over the thing. You're gonna change all those parts out.
Maybe
the
they-
Titanic.
If you're
maybe-
trying to sink a ship and kill people, yes.
they had everything I've read. You said 44 days, but they only had a weekend to be able to change out. That was their window to be able to change out the parts.
I found 44 days.
Okay, agree to disagree.
Maybe it was 1 month,
Maybe when they went
month and a half.
down to see the wreckage and they tried to look at the propellers to match it up, it had washed away. There were no numbers on
There
it.
was numbers. No, there was
Stewart.
numbers on the one, and they're like, "See, 401. That's the Titanic."
Maybe
Yeah, because
a-
it's on the Titanic.
Maybe a dolphin went down there.
He did it. He did do it.
He carved with his little teeth. Just carved the one in there.
Or
it was
an
a she
octopus,
dolphin.
Spit its ink on there and
Yeah, covered
changed
it up. Can't see the rest of it.
Damn you, JP Morgan.
I'm telling you, dude, diabolical genius.
But the Titanic, so it was imprinted. The name was imprinted. If they would have put a plaque over that said Titanic over the Olympic that was imprinted in the still, I think it would
What if
have.
they just popped that piece of steel off, put another
But
one?
it was imprinted into the hull of the ship.
But you could unrivet it and re-rivet it, right?
There's so much work that goes into this, fellas.
I
But
know.
I don't
Yeah.
think they had power tools at the time. No, they did, but
They had the
to a
money.
degree.
I hope they didn't build it with just their hands.
They did, I think, for the most
Why?
part.
Because it would sink? Too late.
That seems like the perfect opportunity to do a shaft job.
I feel, yeah.
Planned obsolescence at its best.
Here's another one. Is the coal fire.
Oh,
I heard
yeah, I
about
was
this
about to
one.
get into that.
Yes.
Yes.
So I just briefly skimmed over it. So if you know it better,
Oh boy. So this is somewhat new evidence.
This
that
is
came
what
out
I
about
got
behind.
4 years ago.
no, it says 2004.
Okay, more
says-
than 4 years ago. All the videos I found talking about it were from like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it says Ohio State
Did you
University
look at the
engineer.
year that the videos were made 4
The
years ago?
videos were made that I watched about this were made 4 years
Okay.
ago.
Gotcha.
So 2004 is when they figured it out. So the idea behind this one is pretty wild. So the Titanic, when it left Belfast, because it was going from Belfast down to I can't remember the other city. It goes to another city and then would leave on its maiden voyage.
France. It goes down to France and it would pick up. I can't remember what.
And then it would leave on
City.
its maiden voyage. Well, on their way back from down from Belfast to start this maiden voyage, there was a fire found in one of the ships coal what do they call it? It's like a coal bin storage bunker. One of their coal storage bunkers, okay? So when they're in these ships at this time, when there's fire in the coal storage bunker, the firemen of the ship basically go in and dig out the coal that's on fire.
Oh, it's is it Cherbourg or Cherbourg, the other city?
Oh, probably Cherbourg,
Cherbourg. Yeah.
Sherbet, whatever.
Because it says there were control teams on standby at that city when it arrived.
So they were trying to put this fire out, right? And so they're digging out the coal and getting rid of it, trying to put the fire out. Well, this coal storage bunker is 3 stories tall and full of coal.
Wow. I mean, it'd have to be, right? How many
Yeah.
tons of coal did it burn through a day? Just said 250 tons?
Yeah, it was a ton of it.
tons of it. It was a tons of it.
Tons of tons. And so they were trying to put this thing out. They were not able to put the fire out at all. It burned from them leaving Belfast into the maiden voyage up until it sank, supposedly.
So what this said is that coal is known to spontaneously combust even after you put it out.
So,
So they could have put it out thinking it was good, and then when they leave for their voyage, it fires back up.
See, and that's the conspiracy.
So
Because they have pictures of the Titanic before it's about to leave, and there's something like you look at the outside of the hull and it's somewhat discolored, as in something is happening on the inside that's causing this discoloration on the
Or
outside.
they didn't have HD.
that
could
too.
be.
But essentially that this fire had been burning and the captain decided to keep it under wraps and not tell any
didn't
any
they,
of the people.
at least if I read this right, like I said, I kind of just skimmed through it. But to try and control it best they can, that's why they overloaded the furnaces with coal and that's what was causing it to go too fast. Did
Could
I
be
read
part
that
of it.
right?
I didn't read that specifically, but it would make sense because they have to move the coal. Where are you going to put it if it's on fire still?
Right.
You know, what better place than
gotta-
in the
So
fire
they,
itself?
they overheat the furnaces, so they have to crank up the knots to
You got a
balance
whole
things
ocean.
out.
And they said like because it would like smolder, but like this had turned into flame. Like it was flame in the coal.
yeah.
And they're trying to clear this thing out. It's super deep. It's full of coal. Like it's almost a never-ending battle. Well, when the Titanic struck the iceberg, the ship's naval architect Thomas Andrews was on board. He was there. He investigated, looked into the damage, and he said, "We'll be fine." He's like, "I'm confident. I know the ship is not going to sink with the damage that it's taken." The theory is that this fire damage from being on fire for days had weakened the hull even further, which eventually caused its collapse, causing the ship to,
So
ultimately buckle and sink.
So this guy wasn't wrong in the sense that the damage from the iceberg may not have caused
Exactly.
it, but the
was the
fire,
fire.
inside.
So JP Morgan lit a fire.
started a fire in Belfast that weakened the ship, knowing that his iceberg might not have done the job.
Wow.
See?
Very elaborate.
Diabolical genius.
See, it
Man.
was saying that this is why in the 1900s they switched from coal to oil. Mm-hmm.
And after this happened, all like the Olympic, known as the Titanic, but now called the Olympic, was still in service for another 25 years because they had updated it, put more lifeboats on it. They had updated the hull and like all kinds of other procedures to make sure that it would work well and not suffer the same fate as the Olympic. I mean Titanic. I mean Olympic.
Titanic.
Olympic.
Titan Olympic.
That's the title. Yeah, no, I'm not going to try it.
Titanic.
Olympic.
we can see the Olympic at the bottom of the ocean floor. Where can we see the Titanic these days?
That actually I don't
Got
know.
sold
Did you
for
find that
scrap.
out?
No, I don't know.
I don't know. Oh, and fun fact, you know that third sister nobody talks about, the Britannic, it was in service for 11 months.
Yeah. Well, it also
And then what happened?
it was in the
It's gone.
it was
It
so
went to the Bermuda
the
Triangle.
Olympic ended up being sold as scrap because
You mean the Titanic?
okay. Right on. I have to fend off the wolves.
Don't jab at me. I didn't say anything.
You're right. That was like a jab around you too.
Yeah, he
man.
just stabbed you.
Jeez.
No, this is
Don't
my
you sit there and quiet. Get my back.
Charles, get my bags. I'm leaving. But yeah, I still think it's the Titanic at the bottom.
Not off this ship.
But it was sold for scrap because there was also a big thing coming where airplanes were starting to fly over and it was a lot faster. So that's another thing that plays into the conspiracy that they wanted to get money out of these ships because they knew that it was going to be airplanes were the way of the future.
Oh, so the Britannic sank. It's sitting 100 meters underwater in the Aegean Sea off the coast of Greece.
Oh,
Did it go down with people on it?
Let's see.
that is really
Actually,
bad for the
I
White
did
Star
know
Line.
that.
So apparently its portholes were open to ventilate. So I wonder if there was a fire on board.
Another
So,
fire.
JP Morgan.
Oh,
Did he have
One
other
ship at a
enemies?
Was he trying to get more insurance money?
ex-wife.
And actually, I think it was
It's
used.
the mistress.
It says here the
Alimony.
Britannic was a hospital ship during World War One,
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
and it hit a German mine.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it hit a mine, and they opened the vents to like ventilate the fires, and they took on water, and it continued and
That's
just sank.
usually what happens when you open up vents.
So, but that, yeah, right. Don't open windows underwater, guys. Come on.
It'll put out the fire, though.
So the Titanic, now known as the Olympic, actually it continued to go back and forth from like New York to England and stuff, but then it was drafted into the war, and they used it to transport troops for a long time. Then it ended up in during World War One. Then it ended up in like another battle of some sort where they covered the entire thing in camouflage, and so it was a really fast ship. So it was basically the only way it was beating like the German U-boats is it was outrunning them.
Okay.
So it couldn't fight them, but they did put guns on it. So they stacked this thing with guns. They put like camouflage on it. It was outrunning people, all kinds of crazy stuff.
See, this
So
is how they make a Titanic 2.
right, dude? Why not?
There is a Titanic too.
I know.
So one of them got shot by some torpedoes from a U-boat.
It was probably the Olympic,
The Titanic.
which is the Titanic
Yeah.
actually, but
I'm bet.
it is unsinkable.
But that killed.
I'm just saying, okay? Real quick thought process here. The Titanic is an unsinkable ship. Which ship is the only one that didn't sink?
The Titanic,
Which is called the Olympic.
which is called the Titanic.
It's the
That's
only
the most
one
believable
that
thing of this whole
didn't
night.
sink.
So with the kill-off theory, though, too, that John Jacob Astor, he was actually friends with Tesla and General Electric, who J.P. Morgan was. I think that was his company, or he was highly invested into it. They were still doing
look at
DC instead of AC.
Alternating current.
Yep. So Tesla, of course, is the father of alternating current, AC,
But
electricity.
see, I can combat that theory because
Let
his
Chris
name-
finish.
Oh, I thought you were done.
He was in the middle of a sentence.
Continue. My bad.
So Tesla was friends with
Nikola.
Yes, Nikola Tesla was friends with John Jacob Astor, who was funding him. And so another reason they said that he wanted to take Astor out was because of his support of Tesla.
So that's why J.P. Morgan wanted him dead.
yes,
Uh-huh.
throwing more fuel on that fire over
Yes,
there.
you're helping our
So
case.
I'm not trying to argue. I'm just saying I'm just bringing
mean-
facts into your theories.
I'll share with you the most important fact as to why he wanted him dead.
Okay.
He was the inspiration for the song John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith. Nobody likes it. Of course, we wanted him gone.
And everybody knows his name.
Everyone does, and we all hate the song, and we had to get him out of here. John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith had to go to the bottom of the ocean.
Sir John Jacob.
Is that for real?
Sir, you decide. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Is that song really after him?
That's what
No.
he questions.
Absolutely not.
I was gonna say I had the same wavelength at the very beginning of this episode. I was like,
Every
I
time-
almost cracked a joke.
Every time he said it, it popped into my head.
Oh, me too.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith.
Do you know what song's been going through my head this whole time? Every night in my dreams.
What's the song?
Freaking Celine Dion.
Celine Dion.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
Hey, I want
never
to
let
present
them.
one last theory.
Okay.
Get it.
One last conspiracy theory. Leonardo DiCaprio survived. He didn't drown.
Well, yeah, he's still
Well,
making
he's-
movies.
yeah, he's
Well,
still-
no. Okay, I'm
Jack.
sorry, Jack.
Jack.
Jack
That's
survived. He didn't drown, and he actually turned into Jay Gatsby from The Great Gatsby.
Because it's played by the same actor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
You
you were
think
gonna.
you thought that was a coincidence?
that's actually.
I was thinking you were gonna say Jack off of Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, he's all bloated
No.
from drowning. Just kidding.
Jack's skinny.
Okay, white.
What?
Where are you going with this?
Have you ever seen a drowned body?
Yeah.
All the pigment's gone. It's
Yeah.
all bloated and white. And
He's a skeleton.
so that's the aftermath of him drowning.
All his skin fell off.
No, so there's really
I'm doing what Cam did this whole time. I'm digging.
You're just not as good at it.
I'm not. I did not take debate class at all.
Who said anything about debate? This is all BS class.
No,
I
so
mean,
you do
everything's true.
admit
It's all true.
it is true.
Oh, too late.
No, there's really a theory out there that a lot of people want these movie producers to confirm that
Oh, this is real.
yes,
Oh, okay.
that Jack didn't really drown. He survived and ended up becoming Jay Gatsby. And the reason he threw all these great parties is to try to get Rose there somehow to see her. But then he ended up falling in love with Daisy.
See, and his real name wasn't Jack. It was it John?
Jacob.
Johnny. It was Jingleheimer Smith.
It's a jingle to you.
I mean, it would be
worst
easy to
song
change.
ever.
It was a J name, J to J.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
And he was hiding from J.P. Morgan.
What was Jack's last name?
Dorsey?
Yeah, that makes sense.
In the movie.
And now he
don't
owns
know.
Twitter.
In the movie Titanic.
still
In the movie
around.
Titanic, what was
I
Jack's
will-
last
I
name?
will look.
He was actually based on somebody. He had the same last name. I can't
I
remember.
thought he kept changing it in the movie.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it? It wasn't like an American last name, was it?
No, he was because he was Irish, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he was trying to
It
get.
was like
Didn't
De Barbaro or something. I don't know. I could be way off.
No, Davro? No.
Yaw. It's Yaw.
No, he
Nuh-uh.
YAW. Yaw. But
No.
he changed it to Dawson because
Yeah.
Dawson.
Jack Dawson. Yeah,
Dawson,
yeah.
because his idol who created Titanic had a character whose last name was Dawson, and the creator of Titanic inspired him. So that's why he continue.
What was his first name?
Jack.
No, so they said that his character was based on a real person that was on the Titanic.
No, it was made up.
Well, yes. So the character was made up, but the name was pulled from a real person on the Titanic.
Oh,
Jack Yaw.
It was Jay. I think it was Jay
Jack
Dawson. Jay Dawson is on his gravestone.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Interesting.
So they made up Jack Dawson, but Jay Dawson he worked as one of the guys that shovels coal into the boilers.
So that reminds me, Jenny did this. They had the Titanic on tour thing. Did you ever hear about that?
yeah.
And I guess she did it. This was years ago. She was a teenager, but she said that at the very beginning of the tour, you get a name, an actual name of a person that was on the ship. And then you go through the tour, and then at the very end, you find out if your person made it or not.
Huh.
I thought that was kind of
Weird.
interesting.
That's crazy. If you had a man name, you didn't, most likely. Because
So-
only 20% of
Yeah.
the men survived. And then it was like 75% of the women did because it was women and children first.
Because they were all still in the doors.
Except for that. Except for that douche that claimed that the kid was his and
Well,
Rose's fiance.
oh, in the movie. I'm so lost, guys. So that John Jacob Astor, his wife was pregnant, and he did ask if he could go on the ship with his wife, and they told him no, and he stepped back.
Oh,
And he stepped back.
so
He
his
didn't-
wife and
That's because J.P. Morgan told the people to not let them get on a
Yep.
lifeboat.
See, he's an evil genius, but he's
Yes.
not a bad guy.
J.P. Morgan said, "Hey, if he tries to get on a lifeboat, you need to deny him."
that
So he needs to stay on there.
Just because I am bad guy doesn't mean I am bad guy.
He is chaotic good.
Yes.
So
Okay.
What were you
We're on
saying?
the same
Sorry.
page.
No, I was just saying that JP paid off all the workers there that said, "Hey, if any of these guys try to get on lifeboats, deny them.
Well,
They're
there-
not allowed on."
There was those guys who were trying. That was real, where the guy fired the pistol 3 times, telling people to back off because there were guys trying to hurry and push their way in front of the women.
I heard of that too.
Heard of that? And then
Yeah.
he turned the gun on himself.
I don't know about that part. But
Oh,
I've never
That's what
seen
he
the
did
whole
in the
movie.
movie.
I've only seen probably the first VHS.
Well, then you're
just,
missing
just until the very end when
I've
it
seen the
cuts
second
off,
one.
right?
Paint me
Is
like
that-
one of your French girls.
Is that when it happens? I don't know.
that was the
you
first
seem to
pair
know
of breasts
exactly
I've
where
seen.
that is.
That was the
Can you give me a
first.
timestamp?
I mean, that part of the movie was really scrubbed. I mean, when you got to it, so on the VHS.
VHS was real thin.
Trying to get the tracking right.
Rewind, play, rewind.
If you
play.
wanted action, you put in the second one. But if you wanted action, you put in the first one.
So quick correction. Apparently, James Cameron had no clue about the actual person, Joseph Dawson.
Yeah.
So he did just make up Jack Dawson, but they have eerie similarities between the characters and the real life person. Because the real person, he was a trimmer on the Titanic.
What is a trimmer?
And he was like a poor dude. So what is a trimmer exactly? I think the trimmer is they're the dudes that put the coal in the boiler room and stuff.
They're the dudes disguised as dudes playing another dudes.
Dude, line of dude.
Tropic
Did he also get screwed over by a girl and not allowed to get on the door?
Probably.
Okay.
That's why he's dead.
All right.
He died.
Fun little fact:
Ain't
the
bad.
ice on them was wax.
Ooh.
On who?
Do you know that? At
In their hair?
when they're freezing in the water and they've got frost and ice on their face, it's wax.
Did you hear that? The water was 28 degrees. That's freezing.
Didn't James Cameron
I thought it was
purposely have the
like,
water
wait,
freezing
are you
too?
talking about the movie or real life?
No, in real life, the
I read
water
it
was
was-
28.
I read something else.
Well, they lied to you.
But I
I thought
heard
it
it was
said -2.
How could water
That's
be
Celsius.
28 degrees? That makes no
okay.
sense.
-2
What?
degrees Celsius because salt keeps it from freezing and also the movement. Like it's like a river in the middle of winter time.
Except
it's
for that
freezing.
massive iceberg they ran into.
Well, that was already frozen and moving through the water.
it breaks off of the
Thanks
caps.
to the dolphins.
Oh my god!
There you have it,
Oh, I was
folks.
gonna say. I think this is. Where
I don't
we just-
know what you believe, and I'm not saying this is how it went down, but I'm just saying
I know what I believe.
that all the facts are laid out before you. You decide if this was all the mastermind J.P. Morgan's doing or just a sad, tragic feat of fate.
Let us know what you believe down in the comments. And if you made it this far, please, dear God, give us 5-star ratings.
if you followed this story,
So I just want to know real quick, just real quick answer. Which one do you guys believe the most?
Oh, the insurance fraud for
Mine's
sure.
the insurance.
J.P.
fraud.
Morgan.
All of them combined.
All of them
It all
together.
makes sense.
If you were to believe one, Chris, which one would you go for the most?
the fire.
Well, that's
Like, that
no
it was
conspiracy.
fire, and they were-
That's fact of how he had it done.
I was gonna say the fire is probably
the most because they were trying to make a time schedule. It was supposed to be a grand welcoming in the
Yeah.
U.S.
The
the
and they were
fact that it
trying
was
to push
studied
it
by a
out of greed.
university. There's fact that there was fire crews waiting at the docks when they arrived. Like, there's a lot of facts there.
The only thing is they can't see the side of the ship that it was actually burned in the wreckage because it's sitting on it. It's covered.
It's the one covered on the ocean floor.
Or the psychic author.
Oh, fun fact
Just
too.
'cause
Oh,
I
he
like
was part of it too. J.P. Morgan got the idea from the psychic author. He started the fire to weaken the hull so that when it hit the iceberg, it would definitely sink.
You want to know another fun fact, real quick?
Yeah.
They actually have a bacteria eaten away at the Titanic wreckage that they named after the Titanic.
Seems genetically engineered to cover
By
up the
J.P.
evidence.
Morgan.
It's
What's it
all
called?
so
What's it called?
elaborate.
Something Titanica or something. It's just a bacteria.
J.P.
Yeah, I heard
Titanica.
the Titanic will no longer be down there. It's
Yeah, I heard it
What are
only
you talking
has
about? It's not down there.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. That's right.
the Olympic.
The Olympic will no longer be down there anymore.
Oh my goodness.
Eventually.
There you go, people.
My head
Facts laid
hurts.
out. We love you. Thank you for sticking with us through
Thank
this
you.
wild ride. I hope you didn't sink too low into the darkness.
Like we did.
Fall too much into the BS.
Like we did.
Although it's all true. We love you guys. Thanks for being part of this crowd. We'll see you
Love
next
you.
time.
See you next week.
Bye.